If you could have dinner tonight with 3 people from history, who would it be? I was having this discussion at dinner tonight. My wife was like, I would have dinner with RuPaul, Prince, and I forget the third one now. It was like an eclectic group of people. My answer, of course, was something a little bit more obtuse. Genghis Khan, Rasputin, or Anthony Bourdain and Ernest Hemingway, right? This is meant to be a rapid fire question, so you got to be prepared.
That's hard.
No, it's not hard. Don't think, don't blink. Go.
Were Adam and Eve real people?
Good question. Go have dinner with Moses right before he parted the Red Sea, right?
I got it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Marcus Aurelius.
Oh,
John
God.
Lennon. Oh,
Imagine all the meditation.
I lost my third. I had a third and then it's gone.
That's so typical of you. You don't have anyone? You just were talking about Gail
Theodore
Godot.
Roosevelt. That was my third one.
Theodore, okay,
Roosevelt.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speak soft and carry a big stick.
Yeah, I was just at the hot springs here in Colorado where he used to go on a regular basis when he was president. So
He was all over the place because he was
Yeah,
Black
I
Girls,
actually
too.
was named after him, and I hate him because he didn't know what to do with our little brown brothers in the Philippines.
This is true.
Who were, on one hand, belongs to us as a spoil of war, who are otherwise unfit for self-governance. Lord, please help me on what to do with these people who are unfit for self-governance. Theodore Roosevelt.
We've
I
just,
was
sorry,
named
wrong
after
This is a
question,
great
guys.
conversation
This is,
dinner. I'm really excited about this
anyway,
dinner.
all right. We're inviting Ted to the dinner with Theodore Roosevelt.
I
Okay.
would love that. I would love that.
Somebody just actually get this conversation started. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Smarter Not Harder podcast, your home to 1 cent solutions to $64,000 questions. And we are here today to talk about Biont hacking devices. If we were to invent something that could help us Biont hack, it can be for personal use, business. It can be for health optimization, medicine and practice. If there was something that we could create, and I think Ted had segued to this in the chat already, just after we decided to do this. So let's define what Biont hacking is, because there has been some really interesting comments and thoughts around biohacking on the social medias recently. And I think we need to define what our Biont hacking is. So over to you first, Ted.
Well, this is actually in response to a person who actually needed a lot of biohacking, I think, gauging by the tone and tenor of the fangs that he was bearing. But he was saying something true too. I won't quote what he said, but a Biont hacker is one who sees the body not as a machine to be controlled, but as a living symphony of trillions, human cells, bacterial kin, mitochondrial whispers, all dancing through time in an ecosystem called you. A Biont hacker listens, respects, and nurtures the core unit of life, the cell. They do not run from aging nor obsess over immortality. Instead, they tend to the garden of vitality with wisdom rooted in evolution and compassion for the lived moment. Their pursuit is presence, not perfection. Quality of life is the compass. Quantity is merely the echo. That is a Biont hacker.
Oh, that's a doctrine right there. Boom. Can use that for
It's
church.
beautiful. I think that really gives us a bit more perspective on what sort of device we may want to create. It's not something that we want to hack and change and create and control. It's how we can support and add and give beauty and effect or effect all the ecosystem of us and what is around us. So who wants to go first with their aforementioned device?
Go first if no one's going first.
No.
This is
gonna be
okay,
I'll go
you
first.
want me to end this.
Yeah,
Okay, go
we
ahead.
typically go to the end, yeah. The one that comes to mind is a device that perfectly balances dynamically your autonomic nervous system. So when you need to be sympathetic,
so trendy of you right now.
I know, right? I have to stay on brand and on trend, but that's what the socials want. So you got to give them what they need, Boomer. Come on. But
Yeah,
you have a device
100% correct.
that could perfectly balance your autonomic nervous system so that if you needed to be stressed and on, you did it. But as soon as you were not required anymore, you can just go done. And you go down to parasympathetic and you have this balance dynamically. And I think the key is that it's not like there's a of a line here. That line is always moving. That's why we call it dynamic. But the problem that you guys all know, and I know personal experience and also from our clients, is that most of us are running in sympathetic mode most of the time, and you can't heal. You don't digest your foods well. You don't detox well. You don't sleep well. You have anxiety. You have depression, et cetera, when you're always in fight or flight mode. So when we're working with patients or clients, what I've noticed is that if they're in that dominant stage, it's very difficult for any of the health optimization and medicine practice stuff to work, like the foundational, looking at metabolomics, looking at gut health. But if they're stressed all the time, no matter how many probiotics you give them, if they're always not getting enough blood flow to like their splanchnic mesentery area, nothing's going to work. They can't digest their foods. They're not going to heal a leaky gut. Maybe you can inject them with things and help a little bit, but in essence, a device that dynamically balances so that you have the perfect control, as it were, of whether you're sympathetic or parasympathetic.
I love that. It's similar to what I had, Scott, that I had in my mind that I was going to, but mine was slightly more. I've been watching too much Dune recently. So mine's a little bit more on the science.
Spice flow. All right, here we go.
Mine is like a shield. So I've been watching the Dune, and they put the shield on when they go into a fight. So what I would love to create is my shield as soon as I hit, like you said, into this sympathetic nervous system drive that everyone's at as a parent. You know, the kids are coming at you and you can't get away from it and you can't actually get out of that state of nervous system. So I would put my shield on.
It's called ketamine.
That's why you're going with spice. It's like spice must flow in the air so everything is nice and calm.
I'll just spray methylene blue in my eye so it looks like I've had spice. It's that shield, I think. But then I was driving to work this morning and I was thinking, well, we do actually have that. We already have this breath. We don't need another excuse to have another device. And I think this is the chat that I wanted to have today with this topic is like, do we need another device, or are we already equipped with everything that we have? And do we use these shiny objects and new machines to actually give us something that we can deter from instead of building our own internal ecosystem, our own power within ourselves? So we already have a breath system that can do this. We already have that breathing and that sort of shield that we can create, but we just feel like we need to have something that we can hit a button and up goes the shield. But what if it was imaginary, if it was invisible? I think that would be very impactful. Like you say, Scott, I think it's the nervous system really governs so much of what we do and what state we're in and how well we think and how clear we can be in our decisions and our reactions. So if we have something or whatever we have already equipped within us, that we can create that in any situation or any circumstance. I think that's the most powerful thing that I could think of that I would want to create. Right on the same line as you, Scott.
The Zana Gaib.
Yes. I'm reading the book too. I've watched like 1, 2, and I'm now reading the book.
When does 3 come out? It comes out next year?
All right. Who wants to go next? Alan, do you want to go now?
You didn't watch the original with Sting on it?
This is David Lynch, right? So that would have been a very appropriate thing recently to watch.
Go ahead, Alan.
So before I get into mine, every winter we have this beautiful arboretum that gets transformed.
This is winter in LA, correct?
Winter in LA, exactly. So
okay.
Everyone gets
so
your
it's 60 degrees instead of 70.
Out. Yeah. So we have more dark than light, and there's this event called Astrolumina where they convert this entire huge arboretum into this sort of psychedelic playground with lights and music, and it's astro, so it's very cosmic feeling. And they have this quote as you walk in that says, "What if the stars could reach back out to you?" Or something along that line. But what if the stars could reach to you, right? Because we're always like reaching to the stars. Given I'm coming off of a night shift, idea was going to be something around circadian biology. But as Ted was just sharing, and Jodi and Scott, the concept of like, what if you could have a two-way conversation with your microbiota, right? What if your microbes could talk to you? We understand that our gut microbiota is central to our health, right? It affects our immune system, our mood, our energy, sleep. It's so important that we actually have an entire module in health optimization, medicine, and practice called the gut immune system. And those are linked for a reason. We talk about how do we detect and correct imbalances in there. Like, what if the relationship, let's just say, became, instead of and it is, in a way, it is still reactive. What if it became interactive? So imagine like the concept of some type of bimodal communication device for your microbiota, right? I don't know if this would be like a sensor that you take and you'd have maybe some that are along your entire endoluminal tract and they are interfacing and communicating with you like in real time. For example, you would be feeling anxious or your diet is off or you're shifting towards dysbiosis.
Or even it can anticipate that. It's like Minority Report for your gut.
Yeah. Exactly. You get the warning, go take 3 tablespoons of oregano oil, napalm the scene. You can just imagine that you could do things like enhance mood. You could work through metabolic flexibility, adjusting your sleep pathways. Just interesting. In HOMeHOPE, we talk about how the gut can tell us about different metabolites, or we can understand what's happening in the gut and inferring through metabolomics and the metabolites that are a result of dysbiosis from overconsumption of fruit, berries, or wine. There's an overgrowth of yeast or bacteria, and then we are reacting to those. And we understand also that we have serotonin precursors and other signals that give us a sense of what's happening. If they could tell you what's happening before you're actually being affected by it, how cool would that be? And you could be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah. So Minority Report for your gut. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like a translator speaking the language of the gut.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Maybe that will be a toilet someday. So we've talked about this before, but you could actually just the Japanese toilets, but now it's like giving you
and then like the bidet will shoot it right up for you, and it'll be like it'll be perfect.
Good sample, you can
probe.
And here we go again.
Here's.
I thought we were gonna make it through this one.
I know, I love that. That's awesome, Alan. But yes, a circadian hacking machine would also be good, wouldn't it? And Biont hacking, especially for those who can't do night shifts and night work. Do you want to go next? What's your
divine inspiration for this came at 4 a.m. twice. The first is my favorite cocktail back when I used to drink alcohol was a Negroni. And a Negroni has 3 parts to it, and they're all equal size. And it's Campari, sweet vermouth, and gin. What's interesting about a Negroni, similar to you guys making fun of me for coffee, is that if you just follow that and do it in equal parts, it's a beautiful drink. When these bartenders try to deviate from it, it gets all f***ed up. And so you just don't want to touch it. So there's beauty in that simplicity. Hold that thought there for a second. The next part of this is another 4 a.m. story. So it's 4 a.m. in Manila, and Dr. Ted here decides that he wants to have a podcast with our dear PhD friend, and I think he's Russian, right? Michael Levin. And I just remember because I was staying at Dr. Ted's condo that night that there's sort of like blabbling. It's 4 a.m. and I'm jet lagged, so I'm awake, but listening to this. And Michael Levin, just for people who don't remember the name, he's a Nobel laureate or like nominated, and he
fast track too.
Fast track. So you have 2 people with incredibly high IQs speaking, and I'm jet lagged and haven't yet had a good cup of coffee. What I love, Michael Levin's work, he's regrown organs on frogs and done it largely with mineral cocktails, right? And how that works in the body, Dr. Ted can explain to you. Essentially, what I would love is a very simple and elegant mineral cocktail to take every morning and be health optimized, because there's beauty in the simplicity. There you go. That's my thing.
Oh, brilliant, Rima. I love this.
Well, it is. Well, the mineral cocktail acts like an electroceutical in the body, right? That's what you're ultimately getting to. But I didn't want to get into the whole voltage gated calcium channel discussion that you guys can all have later.
VDAX for you. Anyway, I thought you were going after electroceutical, but in Levin's work, actually, he wasn't doing this by electrical current, right? He was doing this by the ionic currents that are from the ion channels. And essentially, you change the gating of the channels, or you add remove channels in there, and you get the pattern of activation. And that pattern of activation seems to hold. That's why, you could regrow entire limbs without any DNA activation. But the most incredible thing that I actually took away from that is, aside from growing entire limbs from frogs, I have a special place in my heart for frogs. I decapitate them, I eat them, they eat their legs and all that stuff.
And they actually do taste pretty good when prepared well.
Other part of his project, aside from spinal cord growth, right? For those with spinal cord resections, is very, very useful, because in heart attacks, for example, you could actually regrow muscle cells with actual correct orientation and correct innervation and functioning, so you don't have to do anything. But the work on cancer was actually fascinating. It's like in HOMeHOPE, with the cell that's actually cancerous decides to metastasize. Since he is kept in the cooperative mode by the bioelectric signal, then no matter how much angry and wanting to get out of the control that he wants, it's actually staying there in the ecosystem of the cells in the body. They're all in competition with the others. But for me, that's bringing back Boomer's point to health optimization medicine. You're always looking at us as being part of the environment. We are also part of the environment to others. We could be the loving or the toxic spouse or partner, right? And the thing that I want to create actually, Jodi, is very retro. It's from the Star Trek series, for those of you who remember the Star Trek series. The first one I actually tried to do, but the technology wasn't there yet. I think it is here now. Is the tricorder that they have. You know, the medical tricorder where they go and it diagnoses everything about you. I think you could do that with a mini MRI and sorts of a few other stuff. I even had a grant application for it, which of course I knew was never going to be granted, right? It's just for me a fun thing to do. Yeah, can this be done, but not with that kind of technology. But the other technology, I think that can be done now. Any one instant you go, this is what's happening now. It's portable and it's connected to, okay, this is whatever you need. What you need is an electric shock. It'll just shock you. So the other side of that is actually more of, for me, like a home unit that I wanted, which is like a holodeck. It's just this plain thing that could just be anything, like a beach, all the settings you want where you could actually sit and veg. You want to watch a sunset. The technology is here now. I mean, it's being used in filming, right? They have the 360 where the actors are saying it's actually easier to see a sunset that's in front of them and emote something romantic or something sad because they're seeing the actual sunset rather than imagining the sunset, right? So, and the signals that are coming to you by vision, by hearing, when the extensions were being developed, I wanted to propose an extension called .SSA, which is .sensate, right? That's before the sensate thing in Netflix, of course. It would capture all of the inputs of what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, touching. There was even a device before called iSmell, right? It was based on the mixing various aromas of various things and then heating them so you could smell it. So when you actually go to the Holodecks, say, you know, you can travel anywhere, right? But you can remove the crowds. You can be in a relaxed mode all the time, or you could be in a place where you love to go. I know some people heard their favorite place is not on Earth, but in some other dimension. But, you know, let's push it aside. That's what I like. It's a holodeck. But the one that was really nice, if it could be made, it's not a room, but it's actually instant. Apple Vision Pro didn't do it for me. I was investigating like retinal projection stuff, which is very dizzying. It didn't capture all of the things in the senses. And the way I'm drawn to this is that people always separate us from the environment. The thing is, we are actually part of the environment. And the way I always remember this is the way we breathe out carbon dioxide. The leaves of the plants actually grab the carbon dioxide and then give out oxygen. For me, that incredible, simple thing is enough to make you pause. Like Scott's Park in Colorado are air molecules that will reach here in DC sometime soon. So it's so the key in health optimization medicine is the realization that we actually co-evolve with our environment. All the changes that are happening in us were also changes that were demanded on us by the environment. But our problem is that we're a generation late, usually. Our make and model is adapted to the hunter-gatherer model, but we have created what I call the Lamborghini world. We have a Model T Ford as our make and model. That's why I want that kind of Biont hacking room, a Holobiont-deck. So instead of Holodeck.
Nice. I don't think Lynn Margulis ever trademarked the term, so I think we're okay.
Holobiont holodeck or just Holobiont-deck?
No. Yeah, you gotta simplify it. The more holos you have, the
yeah. I'd like to close with this. We say we're Biont hackers and after Holobiont, right? Holobiont is really made up of different organisms, right? Where mitochondria are different organisms and nucleus cytoplasm is a different anaerobic organism, or our microbiota are different organisms and so on. Some people make a mistake of calling us superorganism, and we're not. A superorganism is really just made up of one type of cell, but it has different phenotypic expressions, meaning it appears differently at different stages of its life cycle, but it all uses the same gene set. It's just activated at different parts of the life cycle. And my favorite example of that, which I played with in biology, undergrads in biology, was a slime mold, right? So at one phase of a life cycle, it looks just as a mold. And another phases look like a little tiny mushroom with a fruiting body. You could see all this, but that's a superorganism, right? It's made up of the same type of cells with different phenotypic expressions of the genes. But we, however, are not superorganisms. We're holobionts, right? We're basically an ecosystem of all the different types of cells that decided to actually live in cooperative mode. They cooperate and they compete at the same time. They have their own niches. And when we do that in HOMeHOPE, we're very, very aware that all of these organisms actually have the same fundamental cell underneath all of them that no one takes care of. And that's why we're health optimization medicine. We take care of the fundamental cell. So you could see how the whole process just repeats itself even in the cell. In fact, they just discovered another organelle. The news was just today. It's called the HOMeHOPe or something like that. It's something to do with garbage collection. When you look at the hallmarks of what comprises an organelle, I really rely on more of the way the mitochondria is defined as an organelle, right? It retains its DNA for the formation of the electron transport chain complex. It is dependent on the nucleus for the structural material around it, right? So, and that's because it cannot break the electrical circuit, right? It cannot break the wafer from between the mother and father, so that you just inherited from the mom. For the organelles, you see very clearly that the direction to form that organelle is coming in from the gene. Essentially, what evolution does is it transfers the control of the creation of the organism that it has assimilated, and then slowly transfers, the creation of the structure over there. And, I haven't read much about the hemifusum and the way it's developed and formed, but my definition is that there's a definite signal from the nucleus to actually form this organelle. In other words, it just doesn't form because of actions on the cell membrane being fluid and so on, the vesicles going and coming like this exosomes, right? So they are not organelles. Okay, so these are important for us to know because the network inside the cell of these organisms or organisms that have been assimilated in there, and then the network of the cells itself. Which like in my 11 example, you can actually control by controlling the relationship of the network within an individual cell. And that's what we do, is to take care of the fundamental cell and the internal and external networks. And that's health optimization.
I love that. We are looking after the basic cell in our nervous system suits, drinking our perfectly matched, simplistic electrolyte or electron drink. And then we are measuring our farts and our poo and giving us a diagnostic look. And the machines that Ted will devise for us to be testing all of this within our beautiful room that we've created for perfectly what we need to match for our physiology. So we have a pretty good world here. This is, I like what we've created. It's beautiful. And I wanted to have this question because I knew that one, Ted would come up with something that would blow our minds, but two, that he'd already tried to create it. And I knew that.
Tricorder was like really one of my ambitious reaches, right? When I started developing a nano camera, right? That was more feasible than actually creating the tricorder.
Oh, I love it. I think we'll leave it there for everyone to mull over and think about their amazing devices or their perfect world. So thank you for joining us again on another fun episode of the Smarter Not Harder podcast. We look forward to joining you for another fun one next time. See you later, everyone.